we're delighted to bring you this 5-part series. This is number 4 of 5, and working in collaboration with the Camden Public Library and Julia Sagasar, who is an amazing human being. It's been incredibly helpful. We hope you'll enjoy our program and show your support by making a donation today. Your gift will go towards supporting the educational programming we've planned throughout the year, as well as our scholarship fund, which awards grants to graduates from Camden Hills Regional High School who plan to study agriculture, horticulture, environmental science, or related fields in college. The Garden Club also provides the wreaths that light up our downtown lampposts throughout the winter holiday season and the flower baskets that brighten our downtown throughout the summer. We hope you'll make a contribution to the efforts that we make, efforts we join many in making, and making Camden such a special place to live and to visit. Our donation basket is in the back, and there's also a basket for the library. Thank you for your generosity. On to the fun stuff. Today, we're very pleased to welcome Sharon Turner, but before I go further, how many of you already know Sharon? There we go. So I'm going to keep this short.
You may have heard it all before.
So it's wonderful. If you don't know her, you'll be so glad to have met her today. She is a force and a well-known presence in the gardening scene in the Mid-Coast area. I first learned about Sharon through my husband, who took one of her gardening classes, adult ed classes, and she was such a powerful and persuasive teacher that he came home from class one day saying, "We must buy 12 fruit trees in the garden orchard." That was my first introduction to this powerhouse.
And Allison said, maybe not.
Maybe not. We started with one, but we're going to get more. A woman of many talents, Sharon offers design consultation, teaches adult ed classes, and runs her nursery, Crystal Lake Farm, with her son, Eli. Sharon delights in helping people develop a new way of seeing their home landscapes, and we're delighted to have her here today to talk about how we can choose the right plants to make the vision of our garden become a reality. For those of you on Zoom, if you've got questions, please type them into the chat. And for people here, do you want people to ask questions as you're going, or save them for the end?
I will offer opportunities to ask questions. Yes, I want this to be much more interactive. I'm not good at just sort of spouting.
I'll step out of the way.
It's too complicated, for one thing.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, so I have done one of those things where I've made my passion into a business. I did it after many incarnations. I'm 81 and a half, which I can hardly believe, but I don't like it very much, but I mostly, I have a clinical counseling degree, and I think that's very applicable. And Irene, who's going to be here next week, I hope, she had a hip replacement, a knee replacement, and it's taking a long time to heal. I just talked to her today. She was going to try to come, but she's a horticultural therapist. And I think that gardening is therapy. I think that's an important thing. It's very, very good for you. There is, in fact, serotonin in the dirt. I just read a quote of Margaret Atwood's the other day. She said, "In spring, at the end of the day, you should smell like dirt." That's Margaret Atwood. She's a force also. So the complicating factor with the right plant, it really is not about the plant. Anybody want to say what it is about?
Location.
Yeah. The place, the location, your land, your property, the dirt, which is the critical factor, and water. Anybody who's taken my class knows it's sort of a mantra: water, 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 that you must water whatever the plant is until it gets established. Bill Kalina, whose book I will show you all, you can take pictures of the list of deer resistant plants if you want to. Allison warned me that was going to be a topic of discussion. So the critical piece is your property, and the classes that I do, they go to everybody's garden, and I think that's really critical, because it's impossible to say something without actually seeing and being in the place. So I do that as a consultant, but my classes, even the one it's not called Designing Your Landscape, it's called Making the Most of Your Yard and Garden, I think is what it is, through adult ed. And we go to everybody's property, and then you get the benefit of everybody else's input as well as mine. If anything, I think the key factor in what I do and what I offer is design, which I think is really critical. It's basic. I come from a family with artists, my brother, my mother, my grandfather, and I had to find something else to do besides art because they took it all already. So gardening has been a constant in my life since I was 10 years old. But I have memories younger than that of like being at grandparents with a grape arbor and the light coming through in this sort of glorious Maxfield Parish number. I mean, I just have a lot of memories. It's been something that's been part of me from the get-go, I guess. So I have some handouts back there, which you can have at the end, designing your landscape for Maine. There's nothing new under the sun with gardening. There will be some fancy proven winners new plant, which may flop in 2 years or less. But there really isn't anything new. Gardening has been being done since the beginning of time, one way or another. But making the most of your landscape and your property. The last week's speaker said something that's been stuck with me, which I don't think I had articulated. In spite of the fact that theoretically I have I'm a therapist, but I would be on the not the touchy-feely aspect, but I'm not that way. But she said, "How do you want to feel in your garden?" Do people remember that? Which I thought was really, really interesting. And it wasn't something that I had thought of. For me, it's like, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, if Myers-Briggs or whatever, but thinking and judging. But anyway, it is about feeling. It is what do you want to create for your space? And I think that's another critical thing is if you are gardening, you should be gardening for yourself. You should be doing it because you love it and because you do enjoy it. I think that's really critical, and not doing it with somebody else coming in and saying, you want the front lawn to look a certain way. I think fundamentally you have to decide a focus, and it could be, I don't know. Does anybody want to say what they are thinking about now in terms of what they want to focus on?
Peacefulness.
Yeah. Peacefulness.
Coziness.
Is that Laura? Is that you?
Color.
Okay. Color is really a hard one.
I like texture.
Texture. And for me, it's sculpture. It's how the masses are going to work together. And also, what do I not want to see? Which is oftentimes, it really important. Okay, so let me just look at this. I could just blather on. Designing your landscape for Maine, and it has to be very practical. You have to figure out, where do you want a clothesline if you want a clothesline? Where do you want to put your garbage cans? How is the mailman going to get to the door? Do you need a new walkway? Do you need to plan for that? Right now, many people are thinking about rewilding, which is an interesting term. Do people know what would somebody want to say what they think rewilding? Naturalizing. Do people know what Maine would do if it was naturalized?
Yeah.
We would be in the woods. There's no prairie here. And I think the emphasis on things for pollinators is wonderful. Doing native grasses and goldenrod and asters, which is great. It's important. And everybody can have a patch of that. But if Maine were left to its own devices, we would be covered in trees. I happen to love trees and shrubs. I think shrubs are my go-to if I had to, ever choose one thing, which luckily I don't. But thinking about masses of plants. And I always say, if you're going to plant something, don't just do one thing. It puts too much pressure on that one thing for one thing. But 3s, 5s, 7s, or 9s, do it in multiples. And then in terms of another design, and Bill Kalina, actually, Alice and I were just talking about him, but he stresses it, repetition, repetition, repetition. So that you can create peacefulness, your eye is moved gradually, not spot, spot, spot. And color can be a really complicating factor because, and a lot of people want to do color most of the time. I think there are hundreds of colors of green, for one thing, and I could just live with that, with periodic, dots of color. Everything has a season, and to get, if you want to do a traditional English border, yes, color can be utilized there, but you could have a patch of an English border with various perennials that were blooming from time to time. That can be done, but I think in terms of the basics, there should be that kind of sculptural structure. People understand what I'm getting at. Okay. So first of all, and you're welcome to take these, or we can get them copied if I didn't bring enough, but this is a very handy little thing here. I don't need to go through it, but it encourages you to take everything into account in your yard, like your septic, which is the most awful thing to have these days. There are these mounds that you can plant nothing on them, and they look terrible, and they're just blob there. It's so frustrating. But if it's there, you've got to figure out what to do with it. Doing little bubble diagrams is a really good idea. Okay, here's where I need to have this. Here's where this walk needs to be. I just did a job in Camden, actually, but I don't think she's here, where we're doing a whole, I recommended it to be on the tour next summer, so perhaps it will be. She did say yes. I don't know if I told whoever it was that, but anyway, where she's putting in, it was a vacant lot, basically. And she had to redo the house, and then decided, okay, now it's the landscaping. So we've been working all summer, and she's doing almost all native plant material, from trees to shrubs to, ground cover. It'll be interesting. But I said, I think you're going to need a path to the door, not from the little parking area. And she called me the other day and said, guess what? The mailman insists on coming through. We need a path to the door. So, taking all of that kind of stuff into account. Where are the gas tanks going to go? What do you want to hide them? How do you want to hide them? And this is, I brought also soil test kits, because that is a really critical thing, especially if you want to do anything like a vegetable garden. That's where it's most critical. But if you want to have a collection of rhododendrons, you're going to need to amend the soil for that too. So testing the soil is really a fundamental. And then you can figure out what is going to be the right plant. Does anybody want to do or has done a collection of a particular kind of thing, like rhododendrons or roses, or yes?
Daylilies.
Daylilies. Okay. Well, they're pretty easy.
Yes,
Yeah, they'll take almost anything. And they can be quite wonderful. Anybody else is a collector? Yeah.
Hostas, they're very easy.
Hostas, and they're very easy. Yeah, you both got easy ones. And hostas can be incredibly wonderful, and we can eat them. Does everybody know that?
And so can the deer.
And so can the deer. Yes.
I have a lot of hydrangea
Mm-hmm.
in my landscaping around my house,
Mm-hmm.
which I have to amend the soil for.
Yes, you do. What kinds do you have?
Paniculata
Uh-huh.
and the other kind.
Okay. All right. Well, there are lots and lots of kinds of hydrangeas.
I can't remember.
And trying to figure out how to prune them is something else.
I have a lot of Russian sage and lavender.
Oh, you do? Okay. And you do need a particular kind of drainage in particular for those things. Where do people get most of their plant information these days? If you want to know something, where do you go? How do you look it up?
Internet.
fact sourcing,
Mhm.
looking up one plant and then checking sources that way.
Okay. And do you feel that I mean, in terms of your past experience, do you feel like you're getting the right advice?
I feel that it can be overwhelming. I
Mhm.
feel that it's not very trustworthy.
You're right.
And especially in regards to like soil texture, soil type,
Mhm.
sun versus not. Some
Mhm.
plants just do well on their own. It's very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, it is interesting. I have not been happy looking on the internet to find things. If I'm looking up a particular plant or something, first of all, they want to sell it to me, as opposed to giving me the history. You can go the university sites are what I would recommend always. This is a publication of the University of Maine Cooperative Extension, and they are a very underappreciated and underutilized resource. I recommend that over anything. Just call them up and they'll tell you where to go if they can't do it. I recommend that definitely. I don't know, I came across something about rosemary, and I was reading whoever this was talking about rosemary. Somebody had some problems. They were having downy or powdery mildew on their rosemary, which it will get. Rosemary will just sort of develop it and up and die during the winter. Most people tell me all the time, I can't keep rosemary over the winter. Have people had that experience, not being able to keep rosemary? Rosemary in Spanish, it's rosmarin. And what that means is dew of the sea. So this person on there, these people were talking about, it's Mediterranean, it needs to be dry. It needs to be, very dry and don't ever mist it. Well, nope, that's all wrong. And I don't know why, I mean, lavender, yes, lavender you could say that about lavender. It doesn't want to be wet. If anybody's ever been to San Francisco or to Spain, I have a picture of my daughter in Spain under a tree, a rosemary tree, and it's coastal. Rosmarin, it means that it's dew of the sea, and they want to be misted, in fact, and not dry. They want the humidity. So it's and here they are, just people saying this dead wrong thing. Yes, Laura.
A good source, Sharon, is the Herb Society of America.
Yes.
And I also use Missouri Botanic Garden.
Yeah, Missouri Botanic Garden is very good, and the Missouri. Yes, the Botanic Garden and the university actually are really good websites, but go to those. Don't just listen to what's out there, because it's getting worse every minute as far as I can tell.
Sharon was
Yeah.
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri.
And what was the herb one?
Herb Society of America.
Of America, yes. There is a Maine State Herb Society too. I talked to them once a long time ago. Forgot all about them.
Native Plant Trust is also.
And the Native Plant Trust, yes. And if anybody here is interested, I've been approached by the Native Plant Trust to try to get something going a little further north. If anybody's interested, I'd love to talk to Allie about that, because they would like to get going somehow here. And I think they're wonderful. They're doing great stuff. So, okay. So would anybody like to say that they have a particular problem with their landscape, with their wannabe garden, or that we could talk about? Yes.
Bishop's weed?
God. Bishop's weed and deer. Then the deer. Pardon? Did you?
Oh, I saw a deer coming in this morning.
Oh, you did? Oh. Bishop's weed is a really, really difficult one. You just have to smother it. You cannot let it go to seed. It is endemic. I mean, it's just hopelessly everywhere. But mow it constantly if you can do it. If you can just cut it down, deprive it of everything. And eventually, I mean, you're going to manage it. It's with most things, you're not going to get rid of it. You're going to manage it. Bishop's weed is really hard. How many have bishop's weed? Probably everybody. And then deer. Allison thought that we would be inundated with deer problems. How many have deer problems?
Oh.
Big sigh. Well, okay, for deer, a fence. There's nothing else that's going to really do it, and it's going to have to be at least 7 feet high. The thing, I recommend fences all the time. You know, a lot of people think, oh, they're not friendly, they're, you know, whatever. They're great. They'll keep the dog in, they will keep the deer out, they will provide you a means of planting along the fence on the inside and the outside of the fence. And really, there's a whole other thing, the creation of rooms. I really am a proponent of creating rooms in the garden. And doing different things, having different, you know, places to sit or whatever it may be. But fences can really help enormously with that. And you can plant, so you can disappear them. I mean, I have, my whole place is pretty much fenced because we had a couple of head of Dexter cattle and dogs, and the deer do pretty much stay out. And it doesn't have to be much of a fence. I mean, it can be, I don't recommend using fishing line because it's so deadly if it's left there. But anything can be deer are neophobes, so they are afraid of anything new. So you can play around with it if you want to. You know, if you have something that's not too unsightly, you can put it up there and scare them off for a while. But you have to change it because if they get used to it, then they can't. Yes.
Could you explain the comment about fishing line being deadly?
Because it's plastic and it really can tangle other animals in it.
Okay, yes, if you let it just.
It'll break
Wow.
and it'll be there. It'll be there forever because it's plastic. But you can use other things.
Nylon.
And so yeah, I know nylon is tricky too, but but better than not. But you could use a black rope or something, you know, which would make it invisible to us pretty much. Black is good because it disappears, stuff disappears. In the nursery, many of you have been to my place, but there's a field that is where the nursery is pretty much consolidated. I can't have a garden anymore because I'm on this property in the country. I can't have a proper garden. I mean, I was married to a Brit for years and I did the whole English garden number in a half-acre backyard in Brunswick. But now that I'm on this country property in Washington, I don't have that kind of garden at all anymore. But so we have fenced with a normal kind of cattle fence around the perimeter. Deer can jump over that in a minute. There's not too much that they seem to really go for, but they'll take a nibble out of anything. The red elderberry, Sambucus pubens, is the one that they seem to pick on if they're going to do something. And that's a wonderful, wonderful bird and pollinator plant. So anyway, what Eli did, kind of at my insistence, because I didn't want to spend the money on a huge, I mean, it would be thousands of dollars to fence in what I would have to fence in. And I'm a cheapskate and I would rather just do it, you know, any which way. So I proposed putting in, and we have, you know, acres of woods. So long poles, tall poles stuck into the fence. And then I had this twine that is used, I can't remember what it's used for, but it's like, it's a cottony kind of thing. Anyway, I just ran the twine all around the very tall poles and like 3 strands. I don't like looking at it necessarily, but because it's white, but it's okay. The deer are not coming in. It's you know, just some kind of jury-rigged system will usually work. What's your situation with the deer? How?
Last year, I had 22 tomato plants and I got 6 tomatoes.
Oh my gosh.
They
They ate the tomatoes.
ate the tomato plants. I mean, yes. And then other things as well. So this is a relatively new problem. We've been out there about 15 or 18 years in Union.
And you're in Union?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
But recently they discovered us.
Well, the deer are a terrible problem right now. We have too many. I mean, I spent a chunk of my childhood in Connecticut, and the deer were terrible then, on the parkways and everything else. And now that's true here. There are just too many of them. They have to be, something's going to have to happen. I mean, we're up against it with the hunters and the guns and all of that also, but it's dangerous. I mean, you said you saw one on your way in, and this morning, broad daylight,
Right down, they usually come out at night.
Yep. Yes.
I had a garden in Union, in which I did have it fenced, as you described it, and on one side though, to keep them sort of away from the fence. I had a huge asparagus patch, and they didn't touch the asparagus.
That's right. There are things they don't like.
It was a great area.
This list here in the Bill Kalina book is, you can take pictures of it or whatever afterwards, of trees and shrubs that they theoretically are not terribly attracted to. Anybody else with deer issues? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we have tribes of them.
Yeah, well, you're in such a prime spot, really, where you
We
are.
are in a
Yeah.
very woodsy
Mhm,
area
mhm.
on the shoulder
Yeah.
of Mount Batty.
Mhm.
We used to have lots of hosta because they love hosta.
They do love
I
hosta.
love it.
Mm.
I always used to think it was a
Mhm.
garbage plant. Because
Mhm.
growing up in the 50s,
Mhm.
everybody had it lining.
I know,
their-
lining your walkway.
Lining their walkways and their driveways.
Mhm.
But boy, they are just glorious for their color and their texture.
Yeah.
Size.
Yeah, yeah.
They can be so.
But when you have to
dramatic.
put a chicken
know,
wire
they're
over
just
them,
really
they're not so
devastating.
beautiful.
They were really the cornerstone of some of my areas
Mhm,
too. And now they're gone.
And they're gone.
Yeah.
Have you replaced them with anything?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
We'll have to talk
Well, you've done other things though, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a row of arborvitae, dividing the road from my house, which unfortunately sits fairly close to the road. And I'm surrounded and across the street from Camden Hills State Park. So we have deer heaven there. And they've left them alone for a couple of years. They came in and just ate everything.
As high as they could reach.
The whole thing.
Mhm.
I just can't believe it. And I had these beautiful trees. And
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
we found them.
Well,
So I'm just.
what you can do, somebody who's over here has that problem with arborvitae, and they're narrow, tall, narrow ones. And what I recommended doing, because of the deer pressure, chewing them and making them look all ratty, until 5 feet high or something, is to just keep them pruned, or plant around them. But if you take off the ratty, what they leave, and you can make it look like it's supposed to be that way. If you know what I mean.
Barriers,
But then you could plant under them with something that they really don't like. I mean, that's one solution if you want the arborvitae. And I love arborvitae. And so many people think it's so common and it's overused and so on and so forth. And yes, but we don't have much in the way, surprisingly, of evergreens. We have them, but the pine trees are going to get to be absolutely ginormous. And there isn't much, and hackmatack doesn't like, larch doesn't like a lot of particular in town, blah, blah, blah kind of things. There's not really that much that we can do. Chamaecyparis, which is the Western version of arborvitae, and the deer don't like that. So that is one thing that you can plant, not native to here. Whereas the Atlantic white cedar is a very valuable and wonderful plant, but it tends to get old and gnarly and big, and and arborvitae has been bred, like overbred. I mean, there are a million different sizes and shapes and so on. But you've got to figure out how to camouflage and make it work. But it's just going to be a fact of life. Was somebody going to say something? Okay. All right, what else here? Any particular questions, issues of problems? I think that's where we were at. Yes.
So on my property, there was some lily of the valley planted, which is pretty, but it just, how should I contain it? Should I put like a metal
Well,
barrier or?
it's a tricky one. Everybody loved it. It's one of those 50s, like the hostas. It's just, everywhere. I love it. It reminds me of one of my grandmothers, it's just a wonderful thing. But it's on the do not plant list now. Do people know about the Maine State do not plant list? Yeah, you can access that. It's a really important piece. And Lily of the Valley is on there now. So I don't recommend using any kind of, anything, pesticide, herbicide, or any of it. And I don't, but you can use glyphosate and our, whatchamacallit, Gary Fish. What's Gary's title? He's our pesticide. Yeah, he is an entomologist, a pesticide person for the state of Maine. And he insists that it can be properly used, but I don't like it. And I'm not going to use it. What I would prefer to do is again, weed whack it down to nothing on a regular basis and keep it covered, and you can use one of my favorite things for starting a garden, for instance, is heavy wet newspaper. Get it while you can. Cardboard doesn't work as well because it doesn't conform to the surface as well as wet newspaper, thick wet newspaper. And do that. People have used old carpeting, you can, a variety of things that you could use just to keep it. It's going to be unsightly for a while, but it's not going to poison the soil forever. And then deprive it of it. And that's true of bamboo, also keeping it cut back and down. My niece has managed to get rid of it, believe it or not, by keeping it cut. Weed whacker is really good. It's your friend in those cases. Yeah, Carol.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend old rugs. I've done it.
Have you?
Everything rots away and all
Well,
the substructure you get,
it's true.
caught in these ropes that are still there.
Yeah, and that's true with carpeting or something. Yeah, wool rugs would be nice, but somebody else had it. Okay, back there. Yeah.
Seeing as the title of the talk is choosing the right plants, not
Yep.
getting rid of the plants you don't like.
You want me to talk about plants?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of great plant pairings for sun, shade, and mixed sunshade that we might think about using? Because on my garden looks great sometimes, and then I don't have the right pairing, so one comes and goes, and the next one's not there yet.
And are we talking shrubs or perennials or what?
Well, I would love to talk more about shrubs because they're easier to work with.
Well, it all depends. It all depends. I mean, I can't say that enough, or I can say it too much, but it depends on your site. And I kind of know your site. So it would be, where do you want that shrub? Where do you want to either look at it, because it's a sweet bay magnolia, for instance, and it's going to be gorgeous and you're going to want to look at it and you're going to want to look at the structure, the bottom.
I'd like to think about an area for me and my neighbor that's sort of shaded but filled with junky trees. And I want to create some boundary. I don't want to put more arborvitae because I actually have probably 50 arborvitae.
You have a lot,
I'm
yeah.
good with arborvitae. So what sorts of things we plant that are leaning toward native, that have visual interest, and that create a barrier? I don't have deer.
You don't have deer. No, you're in
Brag about
town.
it if I don't have deer.
And then do you want to do just random? See, this is where it gets crazy. Do you want to emphasize native trees and plants? Do you care about that for pollinators? Are you wanting to bring
all of it, Sharon?
I know. You want to bring in the birds. Do you want,
bring in the birds and the bees and the bugs.
I'm a big bird person, and a lot of what I plant is for the birds. But then the choice, here's this book. This is Bill Kalina's my Bible. It's Trees, Shrubs, and Vines. It's full of things. So you would have to figure out the sun, and that's what this talks about doing, figuring out where's the sun, where's the shade, what's the orientation, what kind of soil is it, and then you pick the plant. So I can't say, Allison. I mean, I could say a few things that I really love, like Viburnum macerapholium, maple leaf viburnum, which is beautiful, turns gorgeous purples, which is really unusual, purples and pinks in the fall, as opposed to something else. I could say sweet bay magnolia because it's beautiful. You can keep it as a shrub. You can keep it, you can let it grow into a small tree. I could say a whole patch of Aronia arbustifolia, which is red chokeberry.
I have a question about the
Red chokeberry, yeah. Go ahead.
So I planted some and it's still got, I planted it near a window so I could see the birds.
Mhm.
And the berries are still on. When do they eat the berries, the red ones?
Is it a hybrid, Carol?
I don't remember. You mean they won't eat it if it's a hybrid? That's
Well, no, they won't. It's not, and it's really, this is one of the most worst things that I have heard. That, everybody knows, what's it called? The Christmas one, Ilex verticillata, right? Winterberry, Ilex verticillata, right? It's fine. There is an original one. There is one, but they have now developed one because they can hybridize, they can make all these things happen, this horrible horticultural trade, that the birds won't eat. Okay.
So I bought black ones and red ones, and I put them in, a clump of black in one place, clump of red in the other place, and I thought, well,
You didn't get them from me. See, that's the problem. I couldn't resist. She's a good friend. But the fact is, that's what's so important about native plants. So in my case, the Aronia arbustifolia, which are outside one of my windows, and I love it because the birds will come. So I just finished writing a newsletter. If you look at the website, it should be up in a couple of days. I'm working with Anne on it, but about this very topic, because the robins and the bluebirds are hanging out on those bushes and there's not a berry left. We had an incredibly dry fall and the berries were gone off the hawthorns, off everything before the snow ever happened. So here are these poor birds hanging out there looking for the berries. So I'm feeding the birds again, which I really don't even like to do. I like to plant things for the birds. I don't like to feed them, but I'm doing it. And the bluebirds are coming in droves to, eat the mealworms as opposed to the berries. But that's a really critical thing. And they have developed hybrids and then the birds don't like certain things. And this is what's sort of scary. And why it's so important to plant native trees and shrubs is to keep that going, because the native trees and shrubs are what the native flora, fauna, whether it's pollinators or animals, other animals, have come to depend on. They have grown for millennia, with those things. So when they get screwed up a little bit, it gets screwed up a little bit. And a lot of things, I talked to Gary Fish at one point saying about not inkberry, but about the winterberry. How are we ever going to know if it's native, if it's going to feed the birds or not? Because hybridization can take place naturally. Does everybody know that? Things can hybridize all by themselves. It doesn't have to be some scientist in a lab creating some Frankensteinian thing. So do people know this? I have a friend who tells me all the time, Sharon, people don't know what you think they know. So the most basic questions are fine. But do people know that when you're at, your local nursery, now that there's only one left, that if the name of the plant, if it has a name, and it's in single quotation marks. Do you know what that means?
Cultivar.
It's a cultivar. And it is not a native straight species. Okay, so really watch out for that because that's probably, yeah.
The
see.
black ones, the birds ate the black ones fine.
Good, well, then they were probably, okay, yeah. And
But I looked up and the red ones aren't supposed to be eaten until now. like,
that's correct.
So I'm waiting. to
The
see.
red ones will come later, and that's why they're looking at it, empty shrubs at my place. The black ones also can be later. It depends on the. But aronia is a great plant, and aronia could be a wonderful thing for you, Allison. In a certain location. You want to look at the height. What's the ultimate height of the plant? What are the soil needs? What is the bloom time? All of those factors. And lots of times people will, buy plants and because they like the way it looks in the nursery. An important point, just because I can't stop teaching sort of thing, but it would be to don't buy potted plants, especially trees and shrubs, unless you have the place take them out of the pot and show you the roots. Because they can be twisted, if it's been in the pot a long time, they can be twisted and they're not going to come back, or you can ask them to give you a deal on it and take it home and cut the roots so that it'll slow it down, open it up, because potting them, they don't want to be that way, really. And then also, if you buy anything big from places, and I had a terrible experience working with somebody, and she had a gift certificate at a major nursery, and so we got some big arborvitae actually, and he took them home and he took them to her house and said, oh no, we don't need to take them out of the cages. We always plant them in the cages. Have you had that, Karen? Have you? Yeah. And so here are these big metal cages, confining the roots. That's where they've been growing, and then just sticking that in the ground. It's stupid. It's just silly. But
true of burlap as well, isn't it?
it is true of burlap. Yeah, it'll slow it down. It'll definitely slow it down. So I know Allison wants me to give her a specific answer, but the fact is I can't.
Fantastic, thank you.
Without having to see the spot and know the spot. And that's what's been so good about the classes that I teach, where we go to everybody's garden. And so you get my input and everybody else's, as well, and actually seeing the place, and then recommendations can be made sensibly. Other questions?
What about elderberry?
It's an ugly shrub, in my opinion, but it's wonderful. It is, for pollinators, it's incredible. For birds, it's incredible. You can cut it to the ground and it will come back, and be fuller and greener.
But it
And
likes wet spaces.
it does like wet spaces. It can be very useful.
Now, why do you say it's ugly?
Well,
Because it splays out?
Well, no, because it's kind of, when it's not, it doesn't have much mass. It sticks kind of, when it's not in leaf. It sticks, but it's a wonderful plant. And it's good for us and I just, in this newsletter, the plant that I profiled this time is Viburnum prunifolium. I didn't do that one. I was going to do that one. And I love Viburnum prunifolium, which is a great plant. It'll be quite, as tall as this room, possibly, and wonderful bird, I'm a big proponent of hedges and different sizes and a mixture of different plants. Wonderful bird habitat. That's what they love more than anything. And you can mix the plants. I did Viburnum trilobum, which is high bush cranberry, which isn't a cranberry. It's an interesting plant, but it has a problem because we have the European variety here, and it is crossing with the native variety. and creating things that are not native and that are, taking up space where we should be having the native. The birds, the berries are bright red, translucent fire engine red. They're quite lovely. And, but the plant has that kind of elderberry-ish look. It's not a beautiful plant. It does the same sort of stick thing. But the berries, hang on, they don't eat them right away. They're quite tart. The European variety is apparently edible, but the American not. You can only tell them apart by a little gland at the base of the leaf stem. And they've hybridized, so it can be a problem. They're beautiful. And the birds, and I just heard this the other day, the cedar waxwings and the Bohemian waxwings,
Right.
beautiful birds, love that plant. Now, this time of year, I just heard the waxwings the other day, and they come, they eat the berries in, just flocks of them, chowing on the berries, and then they get drunk because the berries are fermented. They've been frozen and thawed and frozen and thawed, and they're fermented. So the waxwings, these beautiful birds, then they fly up into the trees and onto the roof of my cabin and poop out the berries everywhere, the seeds everywhere, and consequently, they're growing everywhere. And I can't figure out whether they're native or not native as a consequence, but it's a great plant. They're fast growing. But it's not native. I mean, we're not pure. We can plant as much as we possibly can of native stuff and rewild as much as we possibly can. But in terms of keeping it pure, this is the world. I mean, we're not gonna not do it. It's there. And we can manage it. I really like Doug Talamy's 70-30%, natives to non-natives. There are tons of really, there's a wonderful plant, which I hope to be able to sell again. It's Latvian, and it's Abelia mosinensis, which is a gorgeous plant. That would be a good one, Allison. It'll take a part, shade, part sun. Beautifully, very fragrant, lovely color in the fall, and it doesn't spread. People have said to me, "Oh, what's wrong with burning bush? It doesn't grow. It's not growing all over the place. The birds aren't spreading. No, they're not spreading it here. They're spreading it in the woods and along the roadside because the birds are taking the berries and planting it. And burning bush is really evil." It's yes, Laura.
I know you said that color can be difficult, but can you suggest some blooming, flower, blooms?
Yep. For almost every season. One of the earlier ones, if you look at I did take a picture of it, Leonard Messel magnolia, which is really early. Another really early wonderful plant is Cornus moss, which is, what's its common name?
Witch hazel?
No, but witch hazel is another really good one. Witch hazel is a wonderful plant. Cornus moss is Cornelian cherry. That's what it is. And it's not native, but it's not bad either. If you go down a wormhole researching Cornus moss, it's quite amazing. It's sort of middle and southern Europe, Russia. It's used a lot for edible for us, for jelly or syrups. They use a lot of syrups. But it's incredibly hard wood. I have a number of them, and I'm trying to just keep propagating it. But a small tree could be a really nice hedge. It could be pruned to be a particular kind of tree. Incredibly hard, beautiful wood. It's a dogwood. Cornus is dogwood. But it blooms in any minute now, March. It's before forsythia. So for something really, early, lovely yellow, and not as gold as forsythia, more lighter yellow. And that's Cornus moss. And then another one, a really wonderful shrub, is the spring blooming, witch hazel, which is great also. It blooms now. It's definitely a southern plant, but you all know about the movement north of all the plants. Things are just for surviving here so much more than they used to. I have wonderful tulip trees. I spent time in Connecticut as a kid, and the tulip trees were just so wonderful, so magical. Yeah, there's a lot more that we can count on having here. I mean, my family bought this place in Maine in 1955, and routinely there would be 30 degrees below in the winter. Not anymore. I mean, it got pretty cold this year so far, but it's nice that it is. So yeah, but the spring blooming witch hazel is quite something. I don't know who's around to pollinate it in February, but it's a beautiful plant and fragrant. And again, many cultivars, like lots of different kinds of cultivars, but the original species. That's what I try to do. And then fall blooming witch hazel is another wonderful, wonderful plant. There's just so much. It's overwhelming, and I keep not wanting to expand at my age. When I'm in my 80s, I'm not going to be around to take too much more, on. But I could just go on doing it forever. Any other questions, issues? Yes.
Are there successes at like your own property? Like when you have friends over, are they like, oh wow, what's that? Or are there things that stand out as like that really works? I mean, it always seems like there's trial and error for these.
Yeah,
so like for you,
there is. What
are some of the
Well,
standouts?
as I said, I don't have a proper garden anymore because my Brunswick half-acre English garden with borders on the edges and everything, it's not organized that way. Yeah, I mean, people do comment all the time about anybody want to say anything? Do you remember anything in particular? No.
Well, it's just, I think what I enjoy is walking through the space, and there'll be a random thing, just like, oh my God, look at this. It's not, not in what you call an organized pattern.
No, except for the lined out trees and shrubs in the nursery.
But it's a surprise. And usually it's a big enough clump to be, not just a single flower. Go around the corner and there it is.
Right. One of my favorites is Abelia mosinensis for, all of a sudden, oh, what is that plant? That's kind of that way. And then the Leonard Messel magnolia, it's just so addictive. I mean, it's because I could spend my whole life studying magnolias or growing magnolias. They're just amazing, and they're ancient. They're pollinated by beetles. It's just fascinating to get into it. It's a really good hobby to have. As I said, there is serotonin in the dirt. You can, make yourself feel better. And also it's good for your mind, because if you're paying attention, and exploring different plants and not just buying something because you like the way it looks in the nursery or the color of the, yes, you can take that. But I think growing old, learning more, it's like learning a language, it is. And doing that, I think, can keep us healthy for a long time. Yes,
I have
Karen.
a cute little anecdote about my father-in-law. When he got into his 80s, he used to say things like, we're getting so old, we can't buy green bananas.
Right.
And then the next thing he goes out and buys 8
A
apple
tree.
trees.
Yeah, right. Well, who is it? Tagore, I think, said, he who plants a tree knowing he will never see it mature has begun to understand the meaning of life. Yeah, which is true. Yes.
This might be off topic, but
Well.
I just recently moved to the area
Mhm.
from Annapolis, so the climate is different.
Yeah.
But where we moved to, I don't have a lot of places to plant. So I've been doing a lot of container. So can you recommend anything appropriate on a deck, containers that would do well that are native or,
Plants that would grow well in containers.
I mean, yes, other than the first of annual color flower.
Mm,
I mean, just something that
mhm.
is made that I could.
Yeah, you could have a whole collection of bonsai. I mean, and you can bonsai a lot of things, actually. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing, you know, that you could do with plants. I mean, I could get into bonsai. Yes.
Is there such a thing as a native Maine magnolia?
No,
Because you see them around.
no, that's right. Yeah, there isn't, but Sweet Bay is, did you get a Sweet Bay, Steve? Did you?
I don't remember.
No, I don't know that you did. But anyway, the Sweet Bay magnolia is one that is perfectly hardy and beautiful. I took one to the plant sale last year, and it was a bud of this beautiful ivory. I mean, they're just so sculptural. They're amazing. And it wasn't quite open yet. It has a divine smell, absolutely divine smell. And the bees were all over it. I brought it so that people could smell it. And the bees were so glommed onto it. You know, they didn't want it for anybody. They wanted it to open up and so that they could have it. But yes, that's a really nice magnolia and a pretty hardy one. There are some, I remember in Brunswick, there was one on the side of a bank facing south, and it was a really big umbrella magnolia. But they can be quite lovely. Yes, did you?
We have a construction going on our property, so we no longer have a backyard. It is all dirt, or it will be. When winter's over.
Building construction?
Yes, building construction. So the construction's all done, but now we have a slope of nothing. What would be your recommendation for ground cover that's a little hardy and not just regular grass, something more native? Do you have any?
The height of grass, or do you want shrubs?
Well, we have dogs, so we need it to be used for that space. So whatever would work well for that.
There are lots of sedges. That's a whole other thing. I mean, it's just, you know, it just goes on and on. There are so many plants that choosing the right plant, but that's what what you're doing. So I would recommend looking at sedges. They are incredibly durable, native, and have been overlooked for a long time somehow, but now they seem to be coming back into focus. But check that out. Yeah, and Bill Kalina, who is an absolute genius. He was the head of the Coastal Maine Botanic Garden for a while, but he was at Garden in the Woods. He's been around, and now he's at a place in Pennsylvania. I can't remember which one. But his books, if you can find his Bill Kalina books, and they're out of print now, but if you can get them, they are absolute Bibles. And there is one that is grasses, sedges, and something else. So I would definitely, and if you're into it, I mean, you know, they're worth it, whatever they're going to cost now. Yeah. How are we doing on time, Allison?
Maybe one more question and.
Take another question. Anybody?
Do you have a suggestion for
Ally?
a dense, I have a boxwood hedge at the top of a sort of a stone retaining wall. I want to replace it with natives. But something that's gonna really leaf out and be robust in the way that the boxwood is. Do you have a suggestion? It's a sunny site?
It's sunny? Is it? And how about dampness?
Reasonably dry.
Reasonably dry. You could try inkberry, which is an ilex.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I have that elsewhere. Okay.
There's not a lot that holds its leaves. I mean, it's like, you know, when I was talking about the evergreens, we don't have a lot of choice of, you know, like a lot of places do, that where things are going to, a little further south, where things are going to stay green most of the year. The Sweet Bay magnolia is one that does keep it holds its leaves for a long time. But you could do that. Witch hazels are pretty good too, and especially if it's a drier site. They're not going to hold their leaves all the time, but they are going to blossom. They are going to be pretty thickly branched. You know, are you looking at it to stop a view or no?
No, it's more like a safety thing, so you don't accidentally go careening down this.
Okay.
The
Well, that's-
boxwood's great for that, but
That's
it's
important.
boxwood and nothing really.
No, and boxwood is really, as boxwood has moved further north, the diseases, boxwood blight has moved with it. So it's not something that necessarily can be kept. I was just going to suggest something else too, but it'll come to me. Ask me later. Okay, anybody else? Are we done? Done?
Thank you, Sharon. That was fantastic. And
We can, I'm happy to stay and ask.
with us, but thank you. So now you all know Sharon Turner. She lived up to expectations.
Oh,
Wealth of knowledge and just wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's hard to focus.
This is our fourth. Next week is our concluding session. It's with Irene Barber. We used to work at Maine Botanical Gardens. I'm trusting she'll be healed and here next week, and I hope you'll join us. She'll be talking about the organic process of design to wrap up this whole series about landscape design, envisioning your garden, and she'll be talking about what to do when things go wrong, should that happen. So please, we hope to see you here again next week, next Thursday, coffee at 10. Irene will start talking at 10:30. Again, we hope that you'll make a donation to both the Camden Garden Club and the Camden Public Library. And we're grateful you came today. And thank you, Sharon, for everything.